Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of today's episode is Boo-Hoo and Boo-Why, What Ghost Stories Do For Us.
Oh!
So, John,
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween. This is our annual Halloween episode.
I know.
Second, I can't believe it's been a year already.
I know.
Flew by.
I know. It's and today we record on the 30th, and it's my brother's birthday today. So happy birthday out there to Steve Lehr.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice guy. Old friend.
Yes. 50. Let's see. What is he? 57.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's getting older. He's getting older.
It's going to be a good year, though. Prime number.
Last year, John, if you remember, we talked about, do ghosts exist?
Yes, I do.
And I talked about the ghostly encounter that I had at one time.
Yes, you did.
And talked about what could have possibly happened or what probably happened, what I experienced. And we talked about some of the arguments for and against the actual existence of ghosts.
We sure did.
And now we as a species have another year under our belts. And I would say we still don't know. We still don't know if ghosts exist or not.
No, we don't. It's an unanswerable spiritual question, which humans like that. I don't know why we like that.
We like an open-ended. It's like anthropology, like archaeology. It's open-ended.
Yes.
It's open-ended.
It's an unsolvable Rubik's Cube.
I still, not to go back and completely rehash last year's episode, but one of the conundrums I still have is when we see ghosts or when people see ghosts, they're usually wearing clothing.
Yeah. What's up with that?
I still I can kind of understand that humans have an energy or a spirit or something that could possibly go, like the energy goes on, like they talk about.
Yes.
But how do our clothes have that energy too? How do the clothes get over there?
Yeah, I agreed. That's only one of many conundrums. But yes, but I guess we're projecting, our energy is projecting a version of ourselves to the viewer, to the real person, the living person, and perhaps who wants to see an old ghost all naked? If I become a ghost, I will project myself fully clothed. I'm going to take off about 40 pounds.
It's like, I was thinking too, it's, do we get to pick? Do we get to pick what we're projecting when we get to the other side?
Apparently. Otherwise, everybody would just be naked as a jaybird. And, as you get older, no one wants to see that.
I have certain, looking back over my life, there were certain times where I felt my clothing fit me really well. Like I had certain shoes and boots and like maybe a shirt that looked good.
Yeah. Like what do you, any time zone stand out to you? Because I've been with you through most of those.
I used to love that Faded Glory jean jacket.
Oh,
I thought
and you loaned that to me. Remember that?
I know.
Yes.
So
you loaned that to me for a one-man show, a solo show I was doing in college. I played Lenny Bruce, and you gave me that coat to wear, and it was perfect. Right. It was perfect.
So I kind of that. I thought I looked good. After my divorce, there was a period I think I was in the best shape of my life.
Well, you were thin. You were a little on the thin side there. It was a little. You were like way into martial arts at that point, and you weren't eating. You were. Yeah, but you look. You've always looked good. Well, take your shirt off. Show everybody at home.
I'll wait till When I come back, I'll take my shirt off. I'll
All
remove my
right.
shirt.
All right. Yeah. Come back as a ghost with your shirt off.
Well, I just
And like assless chaps. Just give us a good, you know what I mean?
when people, when the ghost hunters do the full body apparition, they'll be like,
What is going on?
oh my God, we got a full body apparition. What the hell is he wearing? You know, like that. They'll be kind of shocked about it.
I thought you looked great when we were hitchhiking in
Really?
Europe. Yeah, you had
Really?
those big chops. Here, I have a picture here that people have seen behind me over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Look at
Imagine
that guy.
haunting. I'd haunt the roadside. I'd be out on the highway like the ghostly hitchhiker.
That was like being a ghost. Not one person picked this up.
Yeah, I'd probably get more rides as a ghost than I would that we did.
God, that was horrible.
But the thing is, we just still don't know. We don't know if ghosts really exist. A lot of experiences. People talk about it. The one thing I will say, I have a feeling if there is an afterlife, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Zuckerberg are going to figure out a way to keep making money off of it.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah. They'll charge us. They'll charge us money, or otherwise we're going to show ourselves nude to everybody.
You can, instead of leaving incense or spirit money for your ancestors, you could just send them an Amazon card on the other side. They can buy their own over there on the other side.
It is included in our Prime. You know, that's okay. I wouldn't mind that.
That's it. I wonder how much they would charge a month for that. It's like Eternal Prime. That you get it on the other side too. You can keep streaming.
Jesus.
But today, John, we're going to be talking about ghost stories.
Yes.
Which actually do exist. We know that they exist.
We do. I mean, we've got the election coming up. That's a ghost story right there.
Horrifying. And in the article, the little man who wasn't there encounters with the supernormal. Folklorist Donald Ward says, the folklore scholar is fortunate, as he need not concern himself or herself with the question of existence or non-existence of paranormal phenomena. The folklorist is interested in the reality of the supernormal experience.
Yes.
And not in the reality of the paranormal phenomena.
Right. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be true to form. It doesn't have to be hit science in any way. As long as it scares the crap out of us.
I think it's kind of it's a useful way of looking at things, because you don't really need to, we're not debating whether it exists or not. We're just talking about what the experience of whatever we think it is.
That's right.
Happens. And in the book, Haunting Experiences, Ghosts in Contemporary Folklore, the folklorist Jeannie Thomas adds that regardless of where one comes down on issues of belief, one can still find much to take seriously and to learn from supernatural narratives. And she says, in this framework, even disbelief in a story is not cause for its dismissal.
That's right. It's just whether it's a good story or not.
Right.
You got a good yarn, it's a ghost story.
And again, I find this very useful, especially for what we're talking about now, because people always reach a point when they're talking about the existence of ghosts where they're just like, we'll never know. We'll never know if they exist or not.
Right.
It's beyond science.
Yes.
And again, I would almost say if ghosts do exist, and this is just my own personal opinion, but if they exist, I would say they're part of the natural world, same as everything else.
Yes.
Same as black holes, dark matter, the internet, whatever it is.
They're just as true as the earth is flat.
Wait a second. I should have run this by you beforehand. But we may not know what a ghost is right now or what ghosts are. But
could be anything. We don't know.
Right. But I feel that eventually, at some point, we're going to figure it out. It's only taken us 50,000 years. maybe another 50,000 years we'll figure out what that is, if it's part of the natural world.
I hope we don't figure everything out. I
Really?
like having stuff that's not figure outable, you know?
What else besides ghosts, you think?
I don't know.
Love. Are you going to say
Yeah,
love?
Yes. You know, who's going to be president next week?
Oh,
We'll never figure it out. It's better not to know.
Time travel? Would you go ahead if we had time travel? Would you jump ahead just to see and then come back?
Flip over that. God, yes.
We'll have to do one on time travel.
Yes.
There was a janitor I used to work with that was really into time travel, and so I would research things for him. And then he and I would talk about time travel when he'd come around emptying my trash and stuff.
Oh.
But anyway, we have, if scientists, everybody's like, scientists, they don't want to believe, they don't want to, they don't want to ask the questions about the supernatural. And scientists do ask questions.
Yes.
But, I just say that, we have the Hadron Collider over in Switzerland that's smashing particles together.
God, yes. I have a project over there.
Do you?
But I'm way back in line. I'm like, I don't know.
Where'd you get that? I'm crazy on Etsy or something. You signed up for it, did you?
I registered a long time ago.
You got in early. You can just go over there and smash.
But people keep cutting. That's the thing. Yeah. The Swedes, my God. You go to the bathroom and suddenly you're 30 spots back.
You're going to smash like a ping pong ball into a cantaloupe or something.
Yeah, I want to see.
Be like happens. David Letterman. It would be like a David Letterman thing where you'll just.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't see nobody's coming up with like an electric voice phenomena chamber or like a spirit tunnel or something to investigate that.
No. Mm-mm.
And again, coming back to what we mentioned earlier, I would say that if there's a possibility, or science thinks there's a possibility of an afterlife,
yes,
and I actually believe in an afterlife myself, but I would say, why? Why? It seems to me that capitalism would have some capitalist would have been funding research on that already.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yes. And you're right. Somebody would have monetized it already.
Right. Or at least be like, they're out in the desert somewhere. They're digging a spirit chamber, to like go into the next world and then come back or something like that.
Well, they're going to have wormhole travel soon, right? Like once they figure that out, we won't be driving anymore. We'll just go into we'll create a wormhole and walk through it, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
I could just show up over there at your place, just like, hey.
Certain futurists are predicting that. They're saying we won't be in a transponder, we'll be in we'll have many wormholes that will, a wormhole generator, and then we'll just email ourselves, basically.
Oh my God. I'm thinking about what the traffic is like, how many accidents I see every day in Albuquerque on the way to work. And you add a wormhole to that, and we're just going to be like burning each other's faces off and stuff.
Yeah. Now you're talking a fourth dimension. It's going to be insanity. By the way, we have driverless cars everywhere in LA now.
Do you really?
I'm seeing them all over the place. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it's on.
And how are they doing? Still accidents or running over anybody?
Yeah.
Really?
They won't roll their window down. I try to get them to roll their window down, or I make gestures for them to honk their horn. Nothing. I give them a trucker pull down thing to honk the horn. Nothing. Just keeps
Is there somebody in there with them, or just the car?
The car. Yeah, it's crazy. It's all over.
Now that you mention it, I mean, I think at some point they'll have truck drivers. Or truck drivers will have just driverless trucks that can just drive 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
but
we're all just going to be playing video games and like that animated show where everybody's fat and yeah.
I mourn the day though when kids can't like do that to a truck. They have to program that in so that
maybe
driverless truck driver can.
You can get a plug-in.
You pay extra for it.
You pay extra.
But anyway, John, just one before we move on, I just want to say that all the ghost shows, and I love all the ghost shows.
Yeah.
But basically, we're just in that stage where we're just collecting data. We're just collecting, almost like it was archaeology was back in the 1800s, where they were just collecting pots, artifacts, and labeling those artifacts and comparing those artifacts, but really not explaining anything.
Right.
And I think the next big move but some people have been trying to do it already, but I think the next big move for ghost investigations has to be an explanation. But like we've got enough of the artifacts,
it's time. Give us some information.
Right. We need to have a hypothesis and try to explain these things rather than just come up with more, spirit voices and things like that.
Yeah, we don't need any more TV shows. We got enough.
Right. Although if we come up with one.
Yeah, well, yeah. But for God's sakes, no more Ghostbuster movies either. Let's
really?
Let's halt. Let's put a halt on that.
I think we mentioned, I love the female Ghostbusters.
Yes, I know, but it was roundly trashed.
I know.
People hated it, but I did too. I liked it too.
I thought it was a great take on it. Very funny. I thought very sharp. I love the cast.
Well,
but what I like about Donald Ward's statement is that we don't need to get bogged down into whether or not ghosts exist.
Right.
To actually learn something from ghost stories.
Right. I agree.
And ghost stories can still teach us something about being human, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, for example, this, where I'm living, I live in an old 1922 house.
Right.
And 20 years ago tonight, there was he was a CB guy. He was a hobbyist. He did Citizens Band radio. Right. And went nuts and chopped off the heads of his entire family.
In the house. House.
Right here in this room.
Right. He
had
Breaker 19.
Hey, rubber ducky.
just the horror on that. Channel 19. Go to Channel 19 and listen to a maniac on there.
20 years ago tonight.
Oh, we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. Get the Ouija board out. Get the Ouija board out in your ham radio, and let's get down to business.
I haven't had a Ouija board since I had to de-seed marijuana.
Was it good? You could use that planchette
nice,
or whatever?
Better than a Frisbee.
So what we're going to be talking about, John, is what ghosts do for us.
Yeah.
What they do for us as human beings.
Yeah.
What function do they fulfill?
Yeah.
But first, do you have any plans for Halloween? Tomorrow night's Halloween. Are you doing anything?
No, I don't have any plans. No. My son's going to go my daughter's in college. My son's going to go hang out with his buddies. He's 16. And I'll have some candy on hand, but kids have stopped coming to our neighborhood. I don't know why.
Really? You probably have a lot of people where you're at your ground zero in Hollywood. There's already people in costumes probably walking up and down your street.
Yeah, I can walk to. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll walk down to the Hollywood Parade. It's insane.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
that's a fun.
Yeah.
I would say in Hollywood, living out there for many years, that's the big holiday in California, I think.
Yes.
Los Angeles.
Well, the real Halloween parade is happening in Santa Monica, on Santa Monica in West Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
which is gay. A lot of gay. It's the gay pride parade happens there, and the gay Halloween parade happens there, and it is not to be missed.
Yeah,
if you can ever get to that parade, I remember seeing like 5 huge men dressed as what were those Teletubbies?
Teletubbies.
Yeah. They were all dressed perfect costumes. Teletubbies. But they were all like 6'3", 6'4", with huge erections, furry erections. Fantastic. I mean, it's just it's not to be missed.
Yeah, it's like just the quality of craftsmanship out in
Oh,
Hollywood.
because it's Tinseltown.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how to. Everybody knows at least one wardrobe designer. You know.
Yeah. And even when you go out, I've rented costumes out. Kind of like when you see it in the movies where somebody goes and rents a costume.
Yes.
I once had to rent a gangster, like a mob boss sort of costume for a party,
Oh,
and it's just like, yeah, it was a great costume. Like
yeah.
you just go pick
That's
it up.
an easy one though. You just put on a suit and get a plastic gun
Oversized
and a fedora.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
But
Oversized
yeah,
cigar, you know.
But you can get a full knight armor,
Yeah.
metal armor with chainmail.
Right. What's the best costume you've ever had?
Oh, the best one I've ever had. I don't know. When my hair was long, I used to just get really wasted and put on a sundress. That was kind of my go. That was. Oh, I went as. Speaking of, I went as Princess Amidala once.
Really?
Yes, and it was great. Nobody knew who I was. It was fantastic.
With an erection? Did you have an erection
No,
on it?
well, I did, but not on the outside.
So, John, one of the things I love about doing this show is that moment that, like, I usually don't know what the thesis of the show is going to be or what the theme of the show is going to be when I first start researching it. And so this week I found some really interesting things about Halloween candy.
Really?
And the history of Halloween candy. So I just wanted to jump into that real quick.
Bring it.
And
are you going to talk about like people putting poison?
We are. We'll get into that. We will get into that.
That's like a ghost story, right? Or a horror story. The
we
razor blade in the apple, or the
exactly.
Pixie sticks. What was it?
I will tell you the true story of that coming up.
I'm so sorry. I'm jumping ahead as per usual. I apologize. Please.
You're so sharp. I'm playing checkers. You're playing chess. Is what we'll say. In the article, Halloween traditions go way back and didn't always involve candy. Noah Scheidlower and Radhika Maria say that Halloween comes from the Celtic festival of Samhain, which I think people know that.
Mm-hmm.
And Samhain, during Samhain, the Celts felt that the spirits of the dead were granted access to the other world.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Lesley Bannatyne says in the article, when Halloween was all tricks and no treats, that Samhain would happen around November 1st, which was considered around summer's end, right before things started getting cold and dark again. And Samhain, quote, created a rift in reality that set spirits free, both good and bad.
Jesus.
Isn't that good?
And what does Samhain mean? It's one word, right?
Yeah. Samhain. I don't know. It's a Celtic festival. I'll try to post it.
Any Celts out there, please just
send it in. And if I'm mispronouncing it, send us the correct pronunciation on it. Mm-hmm. But I like the idea of like that's when the spirits cross back and forth over between the next world and this world. They're kind of going back and forth, kind of being crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's their time to shine,
right? Kind of like the scene in Caddyshack when the caddies all got to come to the pool for about 15 minutes. Remember that?
That was their night.
And Scheidlower and Maria say that to celebrate Samhain, people would light fires, and they do something called mumming, mumming.
Oh, boy.
And that was, quote, when troops of amateur actors would go from house to house and perform in exchange for food and drink.
Ooh, I've done that.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad idea.
Whole life. I'm mumming 24/7, 365.
Just mumming, just out there mumming to make a living, man.
I'm just mumming. Ooh, that's a good hashtag.
It seems like that would be like in Hollywood that you could do that. Like when you go out, it's a trick or treating. Like when somebody opens the door, you give them a headshot and do like a monologue or something like that.
Oh my god!
And then the other thing Scheidlower and Maria say is that people would make soul cakes
Mm.
and pats them out to the children in the poor. A soul cake was kind of like shortbread
Yum.
that they would make.
Okay.
And then the other thing people would do is they would bob for apples.
Yes. Have you ever bobbed?
Oh, no. I'm terrified
Really?
of bobbing for apples. Have you?
Oh, God, I've done it.
Really?
It's hard.
Yeah.
The trick is you get in there and you
Yeah.
push the apple to the bottom of the thing, and then you bite into it because they're too slippery. You got to pin them down with your lips and then get your teeth in there, and get it, and then you come out.
It's that easy. It's that easy, everybody.
That's the trick. If you're unafraid to get all the way in there, then forget it. You might as well stop bobbing and start mumming.
It terrifies me for a couple of things. When I was drinking, I'd probably be laughing and with my head upside down in a bucket of water or a tub of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so OCD that I would do it until I actually, got one.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling I would probably, I would end up just, I'd probably drown myself in there.
Right. You would just keep doing it and just kill yourself.
Yeah. People would be like, wow, McCray's really.
You, and I would have shown you how. I would have held your head all the way down so you could pin that apple,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you make it sound so easy. I almost want to try it.
It is easy. It's about getting that apple on the ground inside that tub. Usually it's a big metal tub, right? And you just get that apple pinned down there and then get your teeth in it.
Flash forward to next week's Facebook post. In memory of John McCray. A drowning accident in his garage trying to offer apples by himself. I think there was Agatha Christie. Hercule Poirot there was his Halloween party, that novel. I think there's somebody who died. Not spoiler. I won't tell you who did it, but
wow, I don't remember that. And I thought I'd read all of those. I went on a run on those a few years back.
It's the third to the last.
Maybe I burned out. Okay, that's good to know. Maybe I have more.
Well, but somebody did. They died being drowned in a...
come on, Agatha. She was coming to the end at that point. She was like, Jesus, what else?
Yeah.
How else can I kill somebody?
Possibly good. Toothbrush. He's got a toothbrush. And then more recently, up until the middle of the 20th century, the main thing people like to do on Halloween was to play pranks.
Yes. The trick.
Yeah. Were you into pranks? Did you do pranks?
Not really. I mean, we would teepee, but not really on Halloween.
Right.
I wasn't that into pranks. I wanted the candy. And then,
Well, Lesley Bannatyne says that kids used, and this was like in the 1800s and early 1900s, kids would pull pranks like, quote, stringing ropes across dark sidewalks to trip people.
Oh, Jesus.
That sounds
God.
Or soaping windows. I guess that was something people love to do. They'd go soap up a window and people couldn't see out of their windows.
Oh, God.
In 1887, in 1887, Bannatyne says she read where kids were going out and they were coating church pews with molasses.
That's pretty funny.
You like that one?
Yeah, that one I like.
And then they also,
her name's Bannatyne? That's a
Bannatyne.
good name.
Yeah, it's really good. And then in 1891, she read a story about kids who had gone out and they were smearing walls of new houses with black paint.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds pretty destructive.
Yeah, there are some. Yeah, you sure it's black paint and not poo?
Yeah, I don't know what would. I would hate to have that happen. Have you ever had that where people do the old light it on fire?
No, never had it. Never had it.
Well, there's got to be somebody. I pay an Uber driver to come do it for you.
Yeah, see if you can get me.
And then in 1894, she says, quote, 200 boys in Washington, D.C. use bags of flour to attack well-dressed folks on streetcars.
200?
200.
A gang of kids, 200 kids? That's an elementary school.
I know. Isn't
Jesus.
that sounds awful to me. Like you're on the subway and just 200 kids just are roaming the streets. Like,
oh my God. That's like Lord of the Flies. That's terrifying. That
like
to
the
me is terrifying. With just a gang of 200 kids who just are running around. My God.
Throwing flour in, like you're dressed up to go out, and
Oh
200 kids. There's nothing you could do with 200 kids. There'd be somebody that would get
There's
you.
nothing you can do with 10 kids. 200, my God, that's going to be my nightmare tonight.
My wife had an aunt who grew up in the 40s out in northeastern New Mexico in a little town called Roy. And her aunt once told me that what they would do on Halloween, the big joke was they'd go wait and they'd hide and they'd see somebody go into an outhouse and then they go push the outhouse over.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Although it seems like an injury could happen pretty easily. Right. That seems a little violent, actually.
And Bannatyne says that when the change came, that when in the early 1900s, when people moved into cities, and we've talked about in other episodes like all the changes that happen when people move from the country into cities during the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
But she said suddenly all these pranks started to become a little bit edgier.
Oh boy.
Because you
like
had
real like I stab you in the chest and it's a Halloween prank. Oh my God.
They got a little out of control because people had real problems. They had like overcrowding and segregation and suddenly
you're anonymous. I mean, there's just so many people. I mean, 200 kids. Jesus Christ.
And so she said things like they would like throw bricks through windows.
Jesus.
And write obscenities on like a principal's house.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
And pulling fire alarms. They do the whole thing. But that would scare you. You didn't know if it was a real fire or not.
Yeah. I'm anti pulling fire alarms, but pro tagging your principal's house. Look, if you and I have both taught in public schools. Right. If you decide to become a principal, you're asking, that's putting a bullseye on your chest. Forget about it.
You're asking for it. You're asking for it.
It's like choosing to be a police officer. I mean, you got to be tough, man. Everybody hates you.
I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of that tagging was from actually the teachers going up and tagging the principal, too.
That's funny. You're right about that. God. Although my first principal was so great.
Really?
Mr. Ornstein, yeah.
But
he was deaf, but just a sweet guy, and
that probably helped. All he had to do was just kind of nod, and he didn't have to hear all that.
That's exactly how he ran the school.
Yeah.
He just kind of nodded and smiled and went into his office.
I was substitute teaching one time in the school, and I found this note in the teacher's desk, and it was to the principal talking about how the students had been picking on him and all these things, and it had somebody's name, and I started asking everybody like, who's Joseph? Who's Joseph? And they're all like, they don't know Joseph. We don't have a student named Joseph. It was the teacher I was filling in for. It was a note. All the kids had been picking on him, and had like taken his hat away and wouldn't give his hat back and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's so right. 200 kids turn on you and forget about it.
I know. And the other thing that what Bannatyne says is that pranksters would usually threaten property owners at that time. So they'd be like, a kid would come up and be like, hey, that's a pretty nice rose bush you have out there. I'd hate to see something happen to it this Halloween,
Oh, Jesus. It's like blackmail.
Yeah. Right. It was like a shakedown racket.
Yeah.
So you'd have to give them some food or something to keep them from coming over and vandalizing your house on Halloween.
Wow. So it really was trick or treat. Or treat or trick.
Yeah. Threatening it like a bunch of 8-year-olds out there like threatening you for
I'd pay. I wouldn't mess with them. Not on Halloween.
And so Bannatyne says in the early 1900s, adults in different parts of the country started to fight back against all the vandalism and destruction on Halloween. And so what they started to do is they started to have Halloween parties indoors so they could keep an eye on all the kids.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then actually in Kansas, and I mentioned this to my brother. My brother was in town until just today. He just left today, my brother and my sister-in-law. But there was a woman in Hiawatha, Kansas named Elizabeth Krebs who in 1914 hosted the first Halloween party.
Oh.
And the reason she did it is she was tired of seeing her garden destroyed every year.
Mm. Why would they destroy? What did she do? She must have done something. Right. Krebs was her last name?
Krebs. Elizabeth Krebs.
Okay.
Yeah, Krebs.
I don't know. Something. There's more to the story.
well, what they started to do, she had this Halloween party in Hiawatha, Kansas, and then they started passing out candy. Again, trying to diffuse the situation, you know.
And that was how it started?
That was how the trick-or-treating started, as we know it now, was to stop the vandalism. It's almost like the Roman Empire did with the Huns or something. You pay them tribute to keep them from destroying all your houses and your fields and everything.
Yeah, it's as old as time.
And Elizabeth Nix in the article "The Haunted History of Halloween Candy" says at first people would hand out homemade cookies, fruit, and nuts.
Oh, healthy-ish.
Do you hand out the healthy stuff?
Hell no. I get the good stuff. I get the Snickers, Reese's, Milky Way, Hershey.
Right. Because I'm the same way. I feel like Halloween is not the time to suddenly start trying to worry about childhood diabetes.
You only get to OD on sugar for a short period of your life.
Right.
Well, I say go for it.
Enjoy it. Let them eat up.
Eat up. You know why? Because parents who don't give their kids sweets later in life, they become sugar addicts.
Yeah.
Like Jennifer, my wife, she cannot eat sugar. She's got to have sugar. And her parents didn't have it around the house.
Really?
And last night she ate a gummy bear that was in the kitchen drawer. Turned out it was a 10 milligram or 5 milligram. And I've never seen her so stoned in my life.
Really?
Oh my God. She lost her glasses. She was just a mess.
It was just it was in there by itself, kind of hard. Left over from the former tenants or something.
Yeah. Or my daughter and her friends.
But Nick says then in the 1950s, candy companies got in on the business. They realized there was money to be made.
Here we go.
On selling the Halloween candy. Yep. So in the 50s, that's when it really became where you buy like the pre-wrapped candy. For people.
Yes.
And of course, there was Hershey chocolate from Hershey, Pennsylvania, which started in 1900. Hershey Kisses were first produced in 1907. My wife Mary, her parents used to live in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. And Lidditz, Pennsylvania is near Hershey. And what I discovered was like chocolate in Pennsylvania is like barbecue in Kansas City. It's like everybody has their favorite. Every town has their own little.
My friend has a chocolate factory in Pennsylvania their specialty is potato chips dipped in chocolate.
Oh,
so good.
That's
so good.
We should get them to sponsor us. That would be great.
You know what? I'll reach out to them. I don't know if they still have it.
Okay.
God, so yummy.
In Lidditz, it was the Wilbur. They produced something called Wilbur Buds, Buds, and they were like a Hershey's Kiss, but they were different. And everybody used to say to me, like, "Oh, you like Hershey's Kisses? You haven't tried a Wilbur Bud yet."
Yeah, because it's got weed in it. It's got a bud in there.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
No wonder it tasted so good.
But they were like, I would bring them back to Los Angeles at the time, and I would do taste tests just to see. And sure enough, people love Wilbur Buds better than.
And you liked them better?
I liked them better.
You tested them with other people.
Yeah.
What did they look like? Like turds?
Look just like a Hershey's Kiss.
Oh, it was exactly the same.
Right.
Hershey's Kiss kind of looks like my daughter, a couple of her poops looked like Hershey's Kisses, you know?
I think that's emoji of the
Yeah,
emoji of
Boo. Yeah,
a Boo looks
exactly.
like a Hershey's
Look
Kiss.
at
Yeah,
Dairy Queen. There's a period when they're babies where every now and then they'll do like a Dairy
little
Queen out of
drops.
their ass. Oh God.
Reese's peanut butter cups were actually created by a guy named Harry Burnett Reese, who had
Uh-huh.
worked for Hershey's, then went off on his own and created the peanut butter cup in 1928, and then in
Oh,
1963, Hershey bought him back, bought him out. So
yes. And
Hershey's bought it back.
smartly.
Yeah.
That is the Hershey's, I mean the Reese's peanut butter cup is the most important invention since the wheel.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, that is just a genius candy.
you
And
like those?
it's
Or?
taken over everything. Have you been in a 7-Eleven lately and gone to get some candy?
Hmm.
No?
No. What happened?
All it is Reese's now. It's just
Really?
different versions of Reese's. Reese's Pieces, Reese's White Chocolate, Reese's Big Cup, Reese's 4 things, Reese's 6 of them. You can get a sixer now. You know, it's all Reese's. Reese's has taken over candy.
Brisket? They have a brisket, Reese's
They have a brisket, yeah.
The savory Reese's?
5-pound and 10-pound.
In 1923, a guy named Frank Mars created the Milky Way bar.
Good candy.
And he also created the Snickers bar in 1930, and that's named. He loved horses. He raised horses and raced horses, and the Snicker bar is supposed to be named after his favorite horse, Snicker.
Oh, that's sweet. Snickers is good.
Yeah, I like a Snicker.
Yeah.
And then in 1932, Mars also invented the Three Musketeers bar, and then he had a falling out with his son, and his son went to England and created the M&Ms. He partnered with another guy named Bruce Murray, and M&M stands for Murray and Mars, or Mars and Murray.
Wow. Yeah, so, that is a family with some good candy making. Those are the Willy Wonkas.
I know.
Damn, like M&Ms, Three Musketeers, Snickers. Yeah. Jesus, that's like some serious. They were hot. That's like being Elvis, but with candy.
Right. It would be like Willy Wonka meets what was that TV show that just came out, about the big businessman and like his trying to pass off his business to his kids.
Oh yeah. Why am I? Yeah. Why am I blanking on that? Oh, Jesus.
But that would be like that.
Yeah.
And then, how do you feel about candy corn?
I like it. Yeah. I bite off the white part and do the old trick where I've chipped my tooth and spit it out. Works every time.
Oh God.
I like it. I mean, it's too. I can't do many of them. Like you give me 50 Reese's Pieces, I'll eat them. I'll eat them. But you give me, a bag full of candy corn. I don't know. After like a handful, I'm done.
You never sit down and turn on a movie or a football game and eat candy corn?
No.
Apparently it was created in the 1880s by a guy named George Renninger at the Wonderly Candy Company in Philadelphia, and it was supposed to look like chicken feed.
Oh.
And that's a reason why that everybody thought it was a real joke of like, oh, that's just like the corn we feed to chicken. That was the inside joke about it.
Oh God, Jesus! All right, not me.
And then in the 1970s, Riedlower and Maria say that small individually wrapped pieces of candy became fashionable.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons they became fashionable was that people were afraid, or parents were afraid, of people poisoning their kids' candy or putting razor blades in them.
Yeah, there we go.
So that with the individually packaged piece, you could kind of look at it. I mean, obviously, they're so tiny you couldn't get a razor blade or anything in there.
Right. That was before the Tylenol scare, where they carefully opened the package and you didn't know.
Right. And that's one of the reasons, honestly, they said, I mean, most of the research I saw is like the prevalence of people poisoning Halloween candy isn't really backed up by the statistics.
Right.
And there was an article in 1985, which everyone always refers to, called The Razor Blade and the Apple, The Social Construction of Urban Legends by
Mm.
James Best and Gerald Horiuchi.
That was
And
so
they,
great before the internet, urban legends that were
oh,
just told,
yeah.
like the
Yeah.
one about it was always like you had to always start with, I have a friend who she went to Mexico
Yeah.
and they were staying in a nice, hotel room.
Right.
And they had brought one of those cameras, that are disposable. And when they got back after, there was a picture in it of some
Yeah.
ass with all of their toothbrushes stuck in it.
I know.
You ever hear that one?
Yeah, of course I did. Everybody heard that one. Everybody heard that one.
It's so great.
But you'd be like, really? It's like, oh, yeah, I
Oh,
heard it.
yeah,
My
this
friend
is
was telling me about
true.
it. It was awful.
Oh, God.
But that's, I mean, we'll get to it, but it's like urban legends are very similar to ghost stories in a way,
Yes.
or just actual legends in a way.
Yes.
But Best and Horiuchi, they say that the 1970s witnessed the discovery of a frightening new deviant, the Halloween sadist, who gave dangerous, adulterated treats to children.
Oh, yeah.
And Halloween sadism is thought to involve random, vicious, unprovoked attacks against small children. And the attacks seem irrational, and the attackers are routinely described as disturbed or insane.
Yes. Now we're getting to some real ghost stories.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what Best and Horiuchi did in 1985 is they looked at newspapers beginning in the late 60s to early 70s.
This was when we were kids.
I know.
Yeah, this is our time.
And the good old days.
Yeah, right.
And they found 76 stories about alleged Halloween sadism, meaning 76 stories about alleged people poisoning Halloween candy.
Right.
And they found that there were no specific stories about Halloween candy poisonings or sadism until 1972. And they say that the rise of stories about Halloween sadism seems to correspond with a rise of, quote, general mistrust during the 1970s.
Yes.
The social conflicts of the 1960s and the early 1970s may have encouraged doubts about the trustworthiness of people.
There you go. Just like voter fraud.
Right. And then it's like what you said. I mean, it reminded me too of like QAnon, where, oh yeah, they're all pedophiles, or whether it's a kind of that mistrust of everybody, and then these stories just begin.
Yep.
And then you mentioned already the Tylenol poisonings in 1982, and that's where it just kind of like everybody, they was kind of trailing off in the 70s. You didn't hear about those stories very much anymore. And then with the Tylenol poisoning in 1982, then suddenly it was back. Everybody was like, oh God,
and that was really disturbing because it was real. Right. And the packaging was re-glued, so it felt like it was new.
Right.
Oh man, that scared people. Now we have all those plastic on everything now because of that.
And that's what that's a reason why we have all that plastic in there.
Yeah.
And all that because the person who did that has never been caught.
Yeah.
Like some people think they know who it is, but they've never actually caught the person.
Damn. Why are you looking at me? I didn't do it. Why did you look at me like that?
In the 80s, you were.
What are you suggesting? You have no proof.
But that was terrifying. I remember being terrified of that.
Yeah. I got a headache. We'll take a time. Oh no.
Yeah. And Best and Horiuchi, they say that when you look at Halloween, this idea of this urban legend, that's the way you need to look at Halloween sadism. Because it's very similar to these urban legends we get, like you mentioned one with the toothbrushes. And they quote a folklorist named Jan Harold Brunvand, who says that urban legends. Brunvand, I think he's Dutch. Brunvand.
Okay. All right.
Who says that urban legends are contemporary, orally transmitted tales that often depict a clash between modern conditions and some aspect of a traditional lifestyle.
Yes. Now urban legends have become Facebook.
Yeah.
And they put down governments.
Yeah.
our urban legends have kind of gotten away from us a little bit.
Right, but they're still like it's what you were saying about the older legend, where it was like, I have a friend who,
Yeah, exactly. I saw
I mean,
it on
look,
my feed. It was a
yeah, and look at the one where like that, how it started with about Haitian people living in Ohio or whatever. It was the same thing, just one person on Facebook, like, I have a friend who
yep,
saw
yep,
it, and it's like you take that kernel of truth,
yep. We
and
just can't handle it. It's
right.
our Achilles heel. It's gonna take us down. The urban legend. I love it.
And so Bess and Horiuchi concluded that the Halloween sadist emerged as a symbolic expression of the cultural strain. The sadist, like the stereotypical criminal, is an anonymous, unprovoked assailant, and the sadist, like other strangers, must be met by doubt rather than trust.
Mm.
So they're saying it was that change where after the 60s and coming into the 70s, everybody's kind of afraid of everything, of each other. You can't really trust people. You don't know what they're up to. And that's where we started getting all these stories about Halloween candy
Because
being poisoned.
Pixie Sticks was a thing, right? I remember Pixie Sticks being a thing. Are Pixie Sticks still around?
I think they are. I
They
think
look
they
like
are.
like a straw. It was a straw filled with like, I guess, just sugar, like
Right.
usually
Right.
sour flavoring to it. And
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were putting in, like LSD or something, or poison, I guess.
Well, you would hear that there was an actual case. This was what Best and Horiuchi said. They said that in most of the cases that were alleged Halloween sadism by strangers, usually once the police investigated it, it wasn't a stranger who had done it. So the Pixie Sticks goes back to a story in 1974 in Texas when an 8-year-old kid had been supposedly randomly poisoned by eating cyanide in a
Oh,
pixie stick.
cyanide. That was it. Yes.
And when the police started investigating, they realized his father, it wasn't a
Oh,
stranger. His father had taken out an insurance policy on
Jesus
his
Christ.
kid and then poisoned his own kid
Oh,
about it.
that's so diabolical. And oh
Right.
my
Right.
God.
And he
Oh,
was actually the guy was executed in the early 80s about it.
yeah. Well,
And then another one was like where people were like in 1970, there was a story went around about a 5-year-old kid in Detroit who supposedly had died after eating candy laced with heroin. And that was I looked at the actual stories. It was like on November 5th, 1970, there was a big story in the New York Times about like child eats, heroin poison candy. And then 7 days later, there was another story that came out and the police had found out that the kid had actually been over at his uncle's house
oh,
and had just found like a capsule with heroin in it.
oh,
And had eaten it that way. It wasn't in the candy at all. But the
oh,
uncle was kind of like trying to get out of it. Was trying, I don't know. He was eating his candy and all this
right.
stuff. So,
Jesus. Detroit
um,
always had Devil's Day. Is Devil Day still a thing in Detroit, or is that
I don't
over?
know. I don't know.
That was
What's
always, you'd always hear stories about people going crazy in Detroit.
really?
Yeah.
I read they're supposed to. I don't know. I forgot to look it up. I didn't have time. But there was something about a naked Halloween run in Boulder, Colorado. I may
Oh,
have to.
I
I'll try to
support
post it.
that. I support that. Streaking, the disappearance of streaking was really
Yeah.
hurt our culture, I think. I thought that streaking
Yeah.
was a wonderful, wonderful time.
Yeah. I used to like it was still always shocking. Like when you see a streaker at a football game or a baseball game, there's still something that just kind of like the shock of it and the titillation, all of it. We
But now they're
love
like ghosts. They come out fully clothed,
it.
you know?
Yeah. It's not as fun when you see a clothed person running onto the field, like
Yeah.
jumping over the wall. You got
Not
to be
at
naked.
all. Some unattractive dude running flippity flopping across the 50-yard line and getting tackled. Nothing like it. Those were the good old days.
And also, if you do it, people are a little. There's a pause before they go out and try to stop you.
Right.
Nobody wants to tackle you when you're
Right. Nobody
completely
wants to
naked
tackle a
running
naked dude.
around. But anyway, the reason I bring up all these stories, John, and the urban legends is like we said, they're very similar to ghost stories.
Uh-huh.
And the similarity is that the social environment and the subject matter, and still that kind of unease that we have. Like people are and culturally, there's some stress going on.
Right. I hear that. And also, it seems like a ghost story, to be a really good ghost story, it has to feel like it was true.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an element. It starts out with an element of truth. Like, well,
Yeah.
there was she was on her way home from a dance one night, and she
Hmm.
stepped out in front of a train or something. It's something that is plausible almost.
Yeah. Or like the axe murderer with the summer camp.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. And you and I a couple years ago with Carlos, our friend Carlos, were kicking around an idea about doing a comedy horror show.
Yes.
And what was interesting about doing research on that was coming across theories of how the structure of comedy and horror are very similar.
Yes. They're both trying to get you to do this physical reaction.
Right.
This
Right.
it's a laugh or a gasp or it's trying to elicit this. It's very it's unique.
Yeah, it's like it takes you as a narrative structure. It takes you down a path where you think that the audience thinks they know what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the very last minute, whether it be a joke or a horror, you do something completely different.
Right.
And then that's where you get that to relieve the anxiety. You have either a scream or you have a laugh.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And people laugh in horror movies all the time.
I know, because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do.
Yeah. Get out of there. They yell at the screen. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And people are always like, I don't know why they were laughing. That was really violent or something. It's because people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, we were working on that idea and doing some research on horror and comedy. My wife Mary found an article in the New Yorker by Jamie Lowe called "How to Tell a Ghost Story." And Lowe quotes Ruth Robbins, who's a professor of Victorian literature, who says that the most important thing in a ghost story is the setting.
Ah, okay.
And
I gotcha.
in the 19th century, ghost stories were read aloud so that the atmosphere set people up to be pleasurably scared in a communal way. So we were supposed to all sit around and listen to this together.
Yeah, I mean, most of the ghost stories I got were around a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. When you went camping or
yeah. I got the crap scared out of me once. I mean, I was on LSD at the time, so I was susceptible, but we were all staying at we drove down to the Kentucky Derby and stayed on my friend Bo's farm.
Ooh.
And we sat around the fire and, tripping our balls off. And Bo's dad told a story. And then later that night, he took some weird instrument he had. It was like this
Oh, no.
And it just scared people almost needed to be hospital because, you're on LSD. So it's a whole nother.
Were you outside? We were
staying in a bunkhouse out on the farm. It was classic. It was perfect.
Yeah.
He came up to the window. Whoa. It's weird. People were like, what's that?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But Lowe, again, talking about like with the urban legends, Lowe says that Britons in the Victorian era were obsessed with ghost stories because they reflected uncertain times.
Yes.
And so in the 1800s, again, the Industrial Revolution, a move to urban living, and the technological advances like the telegraph, a supernatural seeming invention.
You look at the success of Blumhouse Productions.
Yeah.
And all the movies that they're making, the horror movies during these uncertain times.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's, it reminded me a little of in our episode on Westerns, we talked about how a Western kind of reflects the time. It's not really about the olden days. It's about what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what is going on in a ghost story. Like a ghost story is talking about, what we're
Mhm.
afraid of right now, even though
Mhm.
we're saying like, oh, back in the 1800s or
Mm.
whatever, there was an old miner who got lost out in the
Mhm. Yeah,
woods.
one of the scariest movies is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you can't
Ooh,
tell who's
yeah.
the plant and who's not. Oh God. Or Them. I think it's called Them,
Was
where
it
a guy
them?
finds a pair of sunglasses, and when he puts them on, he can see the aliens pretending to
Oh,
be.
I haven't seen.
Oh, that's a goodie.
Is
That's a
it?
goodie. I think it's called Them.
I'll have to
Anyway,
look it up.
80s
Uh,
80s movie.
and one of the important parts of it, again, talking about the setting of a ghost story, is the haunted house.
Oh God. I have been to
And
some scary ass haunted houses. There was one in
how,
Kansas City called Heaven and Hell. Was I with you?
oh, I think, yeah. I
You
mean, you're talking
go
about the
up,
ones where you actually go in there, you pay, and then
you
people are in
pay,
there
but
trying
it's
to.
so scary. It's down in the
Yeah,
scariest part of town, and you take stairs all the way to the top, and you'd be in heaven, and there'd be
yeah,
a beautiful woman as an angel, and then you get in a slide, and you'd
yeah,
slide down like 2 or 3 stories, and then you'd land in this black room with what are those lights? Strobe lights, and a
yeah,
guy
yeah.
in a scary mask with a chainsaw would come out, and it was like a chainsaw with the motor running, but the chain had
Yeah.
been taken off. Oh my God.
Oh, I
That
think
scared
we
the
did go to
crap.
that way, and it was scary because that first of all, that slide was amazing. I don't know if they're
Amazing.
still doing that or not,
No, they can't do that. That was
but
like
there's
broke
no
every
way.
law.
I know.
They can't do that anymore.
It's just a metal tube, and kids would be
It
like
was
sliding
like,
down like 3
yeah, it was
stories.
like an air conditioning tube that they had cut open or something. God
But
damn, that
but
was
when you
scary.
come out at the end, there's no way to protect yourself, and
Right.
that guy would just be standing there, and you come in between his legs
No,
with
and you
that.
couldn't find the door, and more people were sliding down behind. It was
Oh,
horrible.
yeah.
That was just scary as hell.
Uh, but this we're talking about actual like the house is haunted.
Right,
The
right.
house is haunted.
Yeah.
And Dale Bailey in the book American Nightmares, the Haunted House Formula in American Popular Fiction, he talks about the haunted house and he says it's a profoundly versatile tool for examining the anxieties and tensions inherent in our national experiment.
Oh my God. I remember reading the Amityville Horror on a train. I was young. We were taking a
Yeah.
train to Chicago, and I was reading, and I was right in the middle of it. And the train, the train
Yeah.
whistle, and I screamed. And my mom was like,
Yeah.
"What's wrong?" Everybody in the car looked at me.
Yeah. Oh, that one was really again, it ended up being a hoax. It ended up being a hoax
Yeah.
though.
Oh, of course. You can't have a pig running around and flies. I've had flies. Who hasn't had flies in their house?
I know.
Yeah.
It was and the guy who wrote the book, that was Jay Anson, I think he actually wrote the screenplay for The Exorcist as well, which should have been a tip off
Yeah.
of how he,
Ooh, that was a
what was
scary
happening.
one too. Jesus, that little kid. You're
Yeah.
gonna die up there. Jesus.
But Bailey says that the haunted house, first of all, the house is like I say in American culture, we all, there is a sanctity about the house.
Right. Right.
And we all, in our culture, home ownership and having a home, it's
Shelter.
supposed to be,
Safety.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Security.
And so that's why a lot of our ghost stories
Take place
take place in the home. I mean,
Well,
we'll have haunted
American
restaurants and things
Yeah,
like
but
that.
American Horror Story.
Yeah.
That house in American Horror Story, the TV show, the first
Yeah.
season was a house. That house is not far from here, from where I
Really?
live. It's in here, of course, it's in LA. And it's
Yeah.
this great old rambling house. And my wife, there was a point in time when we were going to move into that house. And I'm not kidding. She had put an offer on it. And we were about to move into the American Horror
Wow.
Story haunted house.
Wow.
It was amazing, that place. Amazing.
Yeah.
Needed a lot of work.
Did you tour it? Did
Oh
you, I mean, you
yeah,
didn't
we
reach that
toured
point?
it, and we came close to buying it, but it was, anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, that's part of the reason, there was a famous essay that Sigmund Freud wrote in 1919 called The Uncanny. And he talks about like what makes us feel the uncanny is just that kind of unsettled feeling we get in certain places or at certain times.
Yeah.
And he compared it to the German word unheimlich, which means unhomely.
Oh, I thought it
Meaning,
meant don't save the person who's choking.
yeah.
Unheimlich is where you shove a piece of meat down somebody's throat.
Yeah, you push people away. Like, leave him alone. He'll figure it out.
He'll be fine.
And so anyway, that's why when, if you compare, like, a lot of the essays I read compared what happens, like, if you see in Hollywood dramas, it's always like it's over the top. There's always, like, you think of The Exorcist, or you think of Poltergeist, the movie. Like, all the supernatural events are always like over the top. Like, it's always things are flying around.
Yeah.
But when you talk about when people tell ghost stories about their own experience, it's usually it's not over the top. It's not like, oh my God, they were bodies coming. It's a feeling that they had.
Yes. It's like, it's mundane. It's possible.
Right.
That, those are the worst.
Yeah, of like, and again, it comes back to what Freud was talking about, that uncanny, that unheimlich. There's just something about, I just didn't feel alone in the house. You know what I mean? And in the usefulness of ghost stories, it's a chapter in the book called Haunting Experiences, Ghosts, and Contemporary Folklore. Jeannie Thomas says that, usually where Hollywood has this more highly dramatic, gory, and threatening supernatural, in the oral tradition, we're only slightly dramatic, and it's usually how the person is telling the story.
Yes, and where we come from, Kansas, storytelling was a big part of the culture there. My family told stories. My extended family, like when I was at family reunions and stuff.
Yeah. Oh. And when you tell a ghost story, when you tell something, it's usually what someone will try to do is they'll try to set up, like, there's that element of it could possibly happen, you know what I mean? Or that the rationale, but it comes down to like, well, I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain rationally. I couldn't explain it. But it's always something just off. Like, I came home and the door was open, or I know I locked that door and 10 minutes later I found it.
Yeah.
It was. And so what they say is that, Thomas says that one person may hear the ghost story as truth, and a different person hears the same narrative as fiction. But ghost stories reveal how culture manifests itself in a twilight world that makes copious room for uncertainty and possibility, which is what you were talking about.
Yes. We don't want to live in the uncertainty. But that's where most of the world is. It's all uncertain. So it's crazy.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because it's like we don't want to live in that, but that's what ghost stories are all about. That's
we want to taste it in a safe way, or I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, there's that. The whole thing. We want to be calm, but yet ghost stories play upon that, and we're attracted to it. We want to know, like, I don't know what really was happening. I don't know what happened with it.
Yeah, we love that, but we hate it. But
and another thing that happens, Colin Dickey in his book,
Dickey. All right.
Dickey.
Colin Dickey. That's tough. That's a tough
one. He wrote the book Ghostland, which is a great book. An American History in Haunted Places. And what he did is he just went around and looked at ghost stories about different, like the old Winchester Mystery House. And he went and saw what the actual story was. He went down through all the archives with Mrs. Winchester and saw what the real story was. But what he found is that usually our ghost stories they deal with something that we as a culture don't want to deal with, something we're ashamed of. And so you'll have, like, as a culture, we're ashamed. Deep down, we know, like, all the land was taken from Native Americans. So you will have the ghost story about the Native American burial ground.
Right. Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Poltergeist was...
Or slavery. You'll have, like, down south,
something horrible has happened on this land, and now it's pissed.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
But it's us dealing as a culture, we're dealing with these things that we can't talk about openly.
Right, 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 right,
And so
right.
we tell that. And so he says in his book, searching for ghosts can be an attempt to reconstruct what is lost. Our ghost stories center on unfinished endings, broken relationships, things left unexplained. They offer an alternative kind of history, foregrounding what might otherwise be ignored.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a great
Yeah,
way of looking at it. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so he says again, it's like a forbidden history.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And if another thing I read where it was like, well, if it also gives us a way with our ghost stories, we talk about an afterlife, but we really don't go into sometimes we go into the religion, but it's a way for us to talk about a spiritual afterlife or like a spirituality
Mhm.
without getting into the details of what like organized religion is talking
So
about.
it's like a safe way of exploring that territory.
Right. Right.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So that basically just a few more things about ghost stories which I found interesting. They always just like the porn industry, they always take on the new technology. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes, they do. Yes.
So
Porn, ghost stories, and hate. Those are the things that are always at the forefront.
right, right. So like in the late 1800s with the telegraph or with the phonograph, you had
Mm.
people like photography even. Suddenly people were taking photographs of ghosts, for example, or ectoplasm in the 1800s with the photographs. And then now you have it with like our cell phones.
Yes.
Now suddenly you're seeing all the horror stories or all the ghost stories involve people getting text messages from a ghost, or you're like,
Mhm.
who's sending this to me?
Mhm.
Um,
Or just
uh,
starts texting, your phone just starts texting, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
because your screen is screwed up and you have to get a new one.
yeah, it's like it's not like a ghost suddenly is like. I mean, imagine trying to teach a ghost how to use
Yeah.
your cell phone or something.
I just learned how to operate a Ouija board. All right, give me the phone. How do I unlock it?
The other thing is they talk about the haunted bathroom stories. And
Ooh.
a lot of ghost stories take place with the bathroom. Like there's the mirror, you put your hand on the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 10
Yeah,
times and then she
right.
appears to you.
Red rum, red rum, red
Right, right.
rum.
And Jeannie Thomas says that, these haunted bathroom stories, they're because the bathrooms places where we do things that we're kind of ashamed of, whether it
Yeah,
be
we do. We
taking a
commit.
poo.
We create horrors in there.
yeah.
God, I sure did this morning. Oh my God, I don't know what
Uh,
happened.
so that's one of the reasons why we gravitate again, that it's that hidden history. It's
Yeah.
a way for us to talk about things, whether it be like I read one where it was talking about the Bloody Mary story having to do with a woman or a girl getting her period, for example,
Oh. Mhm.
and or other things that happen in the bathroom that people
Right,
don't like to
right,
talk
right,
about.
right. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And then also the Ghost Bride, which again
Mm.
is this cultural thing. Like a woman almost every hotel has a story about, oh, she was stood up by her
Uh-huh.
groom and she
Yeah.
couldn't take it, so she killed herself or something.
What's the Johnny Cash song about she walks them hills? And
Oh,
it's like
oh,
some
yeah,
story
yeah,
where she lost and now she walks the hills at night. You
yeah.
can see her.
The
The
long
long veil.
dark veil or
Yeah,
something
long
like that.
dark veil.
Yeah. Uh, but then somebody I was reading was like, well, where are the heartbroken grooms? Like, you never have like there's a
No.
groom that was like stood up and haunts
Yeah.
a hotel for that.
He probably deserved it. She dodged a
uh,
bullet.
yeah. So, and then real quick, and Andrew Herman, he wrote a book or an article called "Ghosts, Vampires, Zombies, and Us: The Undead as Auto-Ethnographic Bridges," and this is kind of interesting, which I think we'll have to talk about in another episode.
Okay.
But autoethnography is when you go back and for your own story, you go back to your old neighborhood or go research, just like you would as ethnography as an anthropologist for another culture, but you're looking at the culture from which you came, what developed you.
Right.
So you would go back to Kansas and to the neighborhood and talk to people in the neighborhood about your parents, about.
I've done a version of that, you know, drive by your old house or whatever.
Right. And that's I don't know, it was very cool. I love that idea. And there was another thing I came across called legend tripping, is where you go out to where certain legends, like, oh, there's ghosts that push this car here, and you take a trip out there to see if it happens to you.
Yeah, they have tours in Hollywood where it's all about death, where everybody died, and you can go on a death. There's a museum of death here that's a big moneymaker.
I think and again, coming to this story that culturally, it's kind of telling that story when you have star, or like, oh, she came out here and she was hoping to be a star and then she killed herself. And again, it's kind of that story, it's kind of a cautionary tale culturally of like, oh, don't get your hopes up too high. You'll go out there to Hollywood and
well, it's always creepy to be like, ooh, right here is where John Belushi killed himself. It's so creepy. But what we don't realize is that people have been dying everywhere. Everywhere we walk, everywhere we are, somebody's died there.
Yeah.
Lots of people have.
Yeah. If you only knew how many people were sitting there.
My friend gave me some of her clothing from her dead husband. I've worn some of her.
Really?
That creeps people out, but I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I once bought a pair of shoes off of eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And I could almost bet, they were pretty worn, but I'm almost sure they were some dead guy's shoes.
Yeah.
But nice shoes. I like them.
Yeah, don't throw them away.
No, I won't.
No, good.
But anyway, Andrew Herman talking about ghosts as autoethnographic bridges, says that ghosts and the stories we tell about them are not about the past. Not really. The undead problematize the boundaries of time, mingling the past, present, and future. They are like our personal narratives, situating where we come from, where we are, and show us where we might be headed.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's what our ghost stories, in other words, our ghost stories are about us. When we tell really about us.
Wow. What a great job, Professor. Great job. This is a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah. Don't eat an apple. But if you want to bob, you now know how to do it.
If you take anything from this, you now know the secret to bobbing for apples.
That's right. Happy birthday again to Steve Lehr. Wonderful brother. Wonderful
Steve,
guy.
we'll have you on sometime, and we'll talk about fraternal relationships, maybe.
Oh, that would be great to have him on. Our voices sound so similar. That'd be good.
Really? I spent a lot of time with Steve on my own, apart from you, up in Chicago. Steve and I became good friends.
I know, yeah. Well, this is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell a friend about it. Don't forget to check out Watson and Company socks, Puppies Not Piranhas on Etsy, and the Two Humans Cave Shoppy, SHOPPE, on Cafe Press. Have a good one, everyone. Be safe. Happy Halloween. John, love you. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Don't eat any pixie sticks.
Yeah, we'll see ya. Love you guys.